Okay, so at some point in your life, you're going to have a big piece of linoleum that you need to cut down into smaller pieces because you want to make them smaller prints. So this tutorial is going to be a real quick demonstration on how to cut these blocks accurately. The tools you're going to need for this will be a sturdy X-Acto knife. You can use one of these to cut the linoleum. Just make sure it's not one of those real delicate blades. You can use one of the gouges, the knife edge on one of your gouges to cut that out. I've got two of those. And also, or you could use a utility knife. Either way, those will all work for this process. Okay, you can see I have all of my tools laid out. These are the gouges I was talking about, the straight edge gouges that are used for detail cuts. You could use those in your to cut this in half. You could use a sturdy X-Acto knife, one that has a thick blade, not one of those delicate blades, because the tips break off really easily inside linoleum. But what I'm going to be using is I'm going to just be using this trusty old utility knife that I have. And so one of the things that I'll be doing here is I'll be using my straight edge to line up along the line, and then I'll score just a couple times, and then I'll bend and break this. But I want to talk about the ruler that I'm using right now. So this is from Illuma Cutter, and one of the things that I really like about this is that it has an edge, so I can push this down like this, and it has a non-slip back on it. So as I'm pushing down on this ledge, it doesn't move, and this ledge keeps my fingers out of this way. So it's a great safety minded straight edge. If you're going to be doing a lot of cutting, it'll keep your fingers out of the way for sure. Then you'll also notice that I have a non-slip mat on here. So with this non-slip mat, I can push down really hard on this linoleum block and it won't slide around. Another important safety measure. So I'm just lining this up, and I'm going to use my X-Acto knife, and I'm just going to make two light cuts, just dragging it down to score this, and then bend it in half, and it'll break nice and even. So you can see here that these edges are nice and even. So that tells me that I did a good job of measuring and that it's cut right in half. So it's not fully separated though. You know, all of this burlap here is still holding it. So the next thing to do is to fold your burlap, fold your linoleum in half this way, work from the inside this time, and just drag the blade right across that burlap to split it apart. Now I have two pieces here. I'm going to get rid of that. Two pieces. I started with a full sheet, which was 8 by 10. Now I have two half sheets, which is 4 by 8. Then I'm going to break this down here. So I have a half sheet here, or a half block, and now I'm going to do a quarter block, and just the same thing. Just two light cuts on the top. That's all you need. You don't have to push and cut all the way through because it breaks nice and even. And you can see here that the block is off just a little bit. It's not quite totally square, but that's okay. This is good enough for our work. When we use these blocks later on, we will make sure that we line up the straight edges that we have, the squared edges, so that we can have so that we can properly register our blocks. And there you go. You have a full block, you have the half block, and you have the quarter blocks. Okay, so that is cutting the blocks down to size. So you can do this for any size that you need. It's really easy. Remember just to score lightly so you don't have to cut all the way through in that first shot. If you try to do that, or if you're attempting to do that, if your blade veers just a little bit, then you're not going to be happy with the cut that you get. So just a few light passes that will make that groove deep enough so that you can bend your blocks and break them in half nice and even. So these two were the blocks that weren't quite even enough, but they have straight edges on the top, factory edges. And so when I use these, I'll make sure that I line them up in their factory edge corners, and then they will, then everything will register correctly after that.